Hey, how's it going, Mom? Just going to be a couple more minutes. We're getting everybody set up here, so it's just going to be a minute or two. Waiting for Kelly here. Let's bring her on.
Oh, there we are.
All right, looks like
business here.
All right. So, how's it going, everybody? Mopar Mike from Nielsen Dodge with Bram, and I'm here with Kelly from Jonah Park.
Good morning.
So, I guess first I just wanted to start out by basically just if you're able to tell everybody that you're busy and that too.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
I can.
Okay.
Ask everybody else.
Okay.
Can everybody else hear?
All right. All our technical difficulties this morning. So a little bit about Jonah's Ark and why we started Jonah's Ark. So Jonah is our son. He's 21 now. He was born with severe disabilities, mental and physical. 24/7 care. So over the years, we volunteered at other organizations and were involved with other animals and therapeutic horseback riding. And he just has this love and passion for animals. So when he turned 18, we decided, what is he going to do? He can't work. He's 24/7 care with us. He's just going to sit here. What purpose can we give him? And with his love for the dogs, we decided through help with the one organization that we volunteered with to open up our own rescue in his name. So he actually handpicks our dogs. One of them, he named them. He goes transport with us. He helps us when they come in here to New Jersey. So he has an extremely active role. I always say he has the fun role of the rescue. We have the work part. The other day, he committed to another dog, and we have a full house right now. And I said, Jonah, and he's like, but Mom, they need me. And I was like, okay, this is why we're doing what we're doing. It's completely his life. We see that emotionally and physically. Doing something, for him and giving him a purpose. Not only helping the animals that he's helping, but he's also helping individuals. People like him, some of our friends, different things in the community.
Yeah, we're having some.
Sound issues here.
Okay.
Is everybody hearing everything? When Kelly's talking? We've got a couple of viewers here. This is my first time doing broadcast. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. So make sure everybody can hear what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's causing
the we have a backseat issue.
Yeah,
I lowered mine. I don't know if there way turn down the microphone.
You want me to lower mine?
It might work.
Try my volume down. Okay.
Is that better?
Is that better?
Everybody?
Check your connection.
It sounds better on my end right now.
Okay.
All right. I think that might have helped. Let's
Mine is good. Yours is not.
I think so. All right. Continue.
Okay. So basically, we, created a job for Jonah. And by creating the job, we're actually saving lives of the animals that are basically on death row. And then sometimes we bring the dogs in and we work with other organizations around the country that actually help provide service and therapy dogs for our special needs community and also our veterans. last year we actually donated 26 dogs, which I couldn't believe that it was 26.
That's awesome.
That we actually donated. We were actually blown away with how many dogs we actually were able to donate. There's organizations out there, and we haven't really found any for the special needs community, but really our veterans, where there's organizations that raise money for the training aspect, because it's so expensive to actually fully train a service dog, and it's very time consuming to actually get a very, you know, on point dog that's able to go out there and serve their person. The task work is difficult, and it just requires a lot of time and money. So there are great organizations out there that actually help provide some of the training costs, which offsets for the veteran and the special needs community. So that's pretty much why we started the rescue. Our passion, obviously, you know, Jonah is our passion. We would do anything to help him. So this is why we created the company for him, and we named it after him. So he actually has something, you know, a purpose, and he's impacting lives that he doesn't even realize that he's impacting. So our goal, you know, obviously is to bring, you know, awareness to the need and the expense of getting a service dog for an individual, and how it actually will save a life, not just the dog's life, but also the person's life in a lot of cases. We've had instances where, you know, people have been at their last point, and the dog has actually come in and actually saved them, which is really humbling when we think about, you know, like, you know, like what we're doing, because I will say, you know, we had selfish reasons for starting the company for Jonah. You know, it was for him to get, you know, because he can't, you know, have a regular job like you and I have. So it's, you know, for us to see that, it really humbles us. So that's pretty much, you know, a quick, you know, glimpse of why we do what we do. Jonah, you know, he has a lot of similar characteristics to some people with autism. A lot of the social, you know, out in public, you know, and the fear that he, you know, has, the anxiety, even like you can compare it to some of our veterans with PTSD. You know, he goes through a lot of the same things, even though he has a different diagnosis. But they kind of all interconnect emotionally and physically a lot of times. So like I said, we work with trainers all over the country that help train our dogs. And they're phenomenal. We have a couple of dogs here in New Jersey. We have some in Texas that are working. A lot in Virginia. They're pretty much scattered all over the country, which is pretty amazing. So, do you have questions or like specifics for us, or?
If you're able, you know,
first, I know you said that
first, I know you said that you mostly, you know, PTSD, you know, dogs and such.
But can you tell everybody roughly how many people you've helped that need like a dog for autism?
So we actually have 4 dogs currently in our program for autistic, either a child or an adult, that are actually still in the training phase. One of the dogs is almost ready to actually graduate with their public access, which we're excited about that. But it takes, like I said, anywhere from 12 months to 2 years, depending on the dog and the handler. When we're dealing with a child who is technically their handler, it takes a lot longer, just because they're the handler, and it, you know, you have to have that dog spot on. We actually have a dog out in Texas that is training for a 7-year-old autistic boy, and she's doing amazing for him. But the mom, you know, she comes and she pretty much is, you know, doing a lot of the training and the technique work until he's able to, you know, take over himself with the dog. We have a 21-year-old here in New Jersey who is working with his dog that we donated to him and our trainer here, and they're doing phenomenal. They've been in training, I think, about 6 or 7 months now, so they're doing really awesome. We have one out in Harrisburg that's training, and also one down in Virginia. So I don't think a lot of people with autism kind of think like, oh, service dog, like the benefits of having a service dog for their child or their, adult child, with autism. But like I said, the connection between, whether it's autism or PTSD or, a case like Jonah, they all kind of go through the same, emotional spectrums and social cues that, a dog could really actually benefit them.
Right. And I think
and I think you're 100% right with in terms of the popularity of it, because when I started looking into it,
it's something that
really isn't too popular yet. But in situations where we have seen results of individuals living with autism having service dog, it made a dramatic impact on their lives.
Oh, absolutely.
So hoping throughout this process, and, hopefully partnering up here, we can help bring more awareness to
having the service
how having the service animal for individuals with autism will benefit them.
And so many different levels. So the laws are written a little crazy. There's a lot of gray areas with service dogs, and a lot of people have a lot of beef with service dogs because a lot of people can just go online and just say, oh, my dog's a service dog, which is really scary because you really need to make sure that the dog is trained properly, has their, canine good citizen, their urban, their community work, and then their task work to become an actual service dog and pass their public access test. And then stay underneath the supervision of that trainer once they even do pass their public access test. Because if you think about it, and we've talked about this and this is why we are partnered with some really great trainers, is when they pass their public access test on that day, technically that dog is really just only good for that day. Like that day, you have to continue their training every single day. You have to keep up with their cues and their task work to make sure that they stay on point so that they're, doing what they're supposed to be doing for their handler, but also a public safety, aspect of it as well. We have a lot of dogs out there that probably shouldn't be out there, and we're working on trying to change those laws. You can actually train your own dog under the law with the American Disability Act, which is great. I'm actually an advocate of that, as long as you're under the supervision of a trainer that knows what they're doing, and that there has to be the same protocol and testing that every dog has to go through and pass in order to be, considered okay to get their public access.
I completely agree. And also, obviously, having those dogs continuing that training after they're certified too, so they don't revert back to just being a dog.
I know. People, at the end of the day, they're a dog, and they want to be a dog, and they want to serve you too, but, they're still a dog, and, you have to keep up with that. It's like anything, you have to just keep up with, whether you're a nurse, you have to still get your certification and your continuing education classes and different things.
Right.
So, it's the same thing with the service dog. There are different other types of dogs that people with autism and that can benefit as well. You have the emotional support dog. And sometimes when you start evaluating, that's something that they might only need, or a therapy type dog. And then obviously the service dog. So there are 3 different types that you can actually start with. But the only one that actually has full access is a service dog. And like I said, it takes between 12 to 24 months to actually train a service dog to actually be where they're supposed to be.
There you go.
On point.
There you go.
Yeah, it's definitely
a commitment.
Like autism, we have a child that is a runner, that if they panic and they're a runner, we call it we've called them runners, that they panic and they start to run. A service dog is actually a huge benefit because that dog, can alert the right people, and actually stay with the child, so that they don't get lost. I mean, you see it on the news sometimes when an autistic child gets lost, they ran, they wandered. Yeah, exactly. And if they have their dog with them, that dog is going to be trained to do certain task work in that situation, which is the really cool thing. Like you can take a dog and, you know, if that's what your issue is, you fine tune it, and that's what the task work is developed for. So everybody's individual and everybody's need is different, but it definitely, I think, more people would benefit for having a service animal in their child's life, for sure.
Right, that's why I also like you
And that's why I also like you said before, the child or individual is the actual handler of the vehicle of the dog.
Right.
So it's very, very important that they're actually involved, and they're the main person involved in the training. So
we do have some questions
from some people here. Marissa was asking,
what is the most rewarding
part in creating this program for you?
Okay, so I'll sound selfish. This Jonah, I mean, if you would have known him like a few years ago and then meet him today, the difference in him, just his confidence. I mean, when you first meet him, he's in a shy, he's 6'1", and I'm only 5'3". He looks shorter than me sometimes because he'll kind of like try and hide behind me. But now he has this confidence, and he wants to tell people about his dogs. He's like proud of his dogs. You know, like I said, he has the fun part because we have shelters and other rescues around the country that we work with. And they'll send pictures, or they'll ask Jonah, you know, they know certain days if I'm at work, and they're like, oh, wait, maybe, you know, he'll say yes to this one because mom's not right there. I would say he's obviously my driving force. You know, as you know, your child, you do anything for them to make sure that they have everything possible to be successful. And in his case, you know, we're his lifeline. So this is what we do. But then when we see the dogs with their new owners, and then we get the updates and then what they've done or different scenarios, it just warms your heart, because it just is like, wow, like, where would they have been if we didn't start what we were doing in a way,
Right.
You know? So, I mean, we're a tiny, tiny little, you know, drop of water in the big bucket. But if we can help, you know, a few individuals every year, it's worth it to us. You know, and like I said, we're more of, we're the donor end of it, as far as donating the dogs and pairing them with our trainers. Or they might already have a trainer and they just need a dog, and you know, if the dog passes, then we'll donate that.
But either way, that's a key ingredient. So it's it's an integral part of the process, which is, you know, obviously great.
So
got some more questions here. This other person actually comes from my mom, but the rest of the world, Karen is asking, how do you access the service dog once the child is ready for it?
As far as access,
I think she's asking like once. How do you access?
Like how
do you access the service dog once the child is at a point where
I guess they'd be mature enough to be able to go through the certification process? And you can correct me
if I'm wrong.
Okay, so it's really individual. So there's a few different types of ways that you can train a dog, and usually in your case, you said like with your daughter, when they're younger, it's harder to have them actually quote train the dog themselves. So having a pre-trained dog, which goes through a board and train with one of the trainers, is probably the best option.
I think she just sent in a comment here saying, how can you tell when the child is ready?
Oh, okay. I mean, it's hard.
That's a hard question.
That's a hard question.
Yeah, that's a hard question because it is individual. It's really the support system that the child has, because everybody has to be committed. You know, everybody has to be on board. Everybody has to be willing to be training this dog, and they have to follow the rules. You know, like if you have a cue word, you know, for a certain command, everybody has to follow it, because the dog's going to be confused. I mean, it's just like it's like puppy 101 training. You know, if use one word to go out to the bathroom and a different word, dog doesn't understand. You're confused. It's confusion, 100%. And you don't want confusion.
100%.
Really, it's a whole interview process with the family and getting everybody on board and 100% committed. So, I mean, that's like really the key right there is you have to be behind that child 100% and be willing to, you know, be committed through the good and the bad, because you're going to have some issues just like anything else.
Right.
You'll have some ups and downs with the training and the frustration, you know. Dogs can be stubborn. It's like children.
Working with autism in itself obviously is a difficult thing in itself. And then basically bringing a new member of the family
so to speak,
into the family, so to speak, and going through that adjustment process while training.
And the big thing is we don't make the 100% the decision. Like we work with, like I said, our trainers. We work with, you know, we're interviewing you as a family. We're all kind of on the same page on what's best. And some people may come to us and say, oh, well, we want a German Shepherd. Okay, well, maybe the German Shepherd isn't the right dog for you. You know, so we actually sit down and it's a process, you know, of finding the right match, the right temperament, the right type of training, you know, that is best for your living.
One thing I found very intriguing when we first started speaking was that you're basically saying
as much as this
dog is part of the family, it's not so much of a pet as it is a
special needs
dog or a service dog. So
it's not one of those situations where
you're going to the pet store and picking out your new puppy. This dog has a job to do.
Just like when
you're hiring a new employee, you have to make sure that the individual you're hiring is qualified for the job.
Right. Exactly. It's so true. I mean, we actually had a veteran who had it in their mind, a specific type of dog that they wanted. And they didn't want long hair dog, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah, like they just had it in their mind, like a specific dog, because they grew up, you know, with certain things. Well, we ended up with a Great Pyrenees mix, which was a big fluffy teddy bear, which was opposite of what they really had originally thought that they ever would end up with. But that dog's temperament and her willingness to, she had such empathy, this dog. I mean, you just could see it in her eyes. I mean, that was the one thing Jonah had said about her from the beginning was her eyes. He always says he has to look at their eyes before he names them. So he takes it seriously.
He names all the dogs?
He names all the dogs.
That's awesome.
He names all the dogs. And he says, you know, he has to look at their eyes. And I mean, sometimes they're named after his sports teams. I mean, anything. We never know. I use it as a learning tool to teach him about maybe where the dogs are from. We start talking about, you know, like their history, if we know any, you know, different things, and something will click in his head or his, you know, we had the playlist litter, which was off of his songs on his playlist on his phone, you know, so they were all named after some country music singers, you know.
Awesome.
We never know. Awesome. We never know. He's a huge diehard Kentucky fan for basketball, so we've had Kentucky litters left and right. Anything with Kentucky basketball. So he's like, and his one border collie who actually does scent work right now here in New Jersey. He had named him Coach Cow after the men's basketball coach, and they kept his name, and they actually watch every Kentucky basketball game, and they would email us and saying, you know, oh, we're happy. Oh, no, coach is sad today. Like if they lost, you know, so it's great. Like, you know, our adopters, you know, they connect with him on certain things, you know, so yeah, it's fun. Right. You know, it's a lot of fun.
So I guess
if we can start getting into, you can tell us a little bit more about the financial aspect for
bringing these dogs in,
and also you know training them, and obviously you do basic training and all that.
I was also
when speaking with my kind of a
mom number two for my childhood.
Ginny, I grew up with her son in high school. I practically lived there for probably half my high school days at her house. But she was actually telling me that you have a different process with the transportation versus just the general rescue organizations out there. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, so I guess I don't know if it's right to say or wrong to say, but I guess I'm a bad businesswoman because I spend a lot more money than I should on my dogs than most people. You know, we really, to me, it's so important to make sure that they have the best care. And, you know, I take good care of our fosters. We send them whatever they need. Some of our fosters are great and they're like, no, we don't, you know, we're good. We don't need anything. Others, you know, they might not be in a financial situation where they do need us to supply things for them, and we will. And they know that about us. It is very expensive to pull a dog. Some of the shelters we have to pay a fee. Some of them we don't. You know, we have to cover all their vetting, you know, all their medical, all their prevention, their food, anything that comes up that they may need. If they end up being a heartworm positive dog, we treat them. You know, we'll run like fundraisers and stuff if we have a medical case or something. But just our general dogs that we pull, you know, and take into custody, I mean, we're spending hundreds of dollars on them just to get them ready before we even, you know if they're even going to qualify for a therapy or service dog, or they might just go for just an adoption. And then we have to pay for the transport. I only trust a few companies here in the country. I'm very picky with who I put my dogs on with. And I trust them immensely. Like my husband always said, we're putting a lot of time and effort, and our fosters are putting a lot of time and effort in the care and health of our dogs. You have to trust your transport. You have to trust them 100% that they're doing their job and making sure anybody that gets on those transports is following the same protocols that we have.
Right. So if you get a little bit more into that,
Virginia was telling me that you have
very strict standards with the actual transportation process,
what the dogs are able to touch and things like that during the transport.
Yeah, so we're mandatory. We do at least 30 days in home foster before we'll even move them to New Jersey. And sometimes longer, depending on the age of the dog. If they're young puppies, they have to stay longer. So it's a lot of commitment on our fosters' end, and we have amazing group of people that we work with all over the country that, you know, help us do what we're able to do. And why we do that is we make sure that they're healthy and that there's nothing, if there is something going on, we can catch it and we can deal with it at the time before we bring them here. Once they get on our transports, they're no paws on the ground. They don't, you know, our adults are allowed to walk because they're fully vaccinated, but our puppies have to be no paws on the ground. Once they come to New Jersey, we actually buy artificial turf for our puppy rooms and put artificial turf down for every individual group that comes through our doors. It's expensive, but it's worth it because that's the only thing I know that those dogs have been on and no other dogs have been on. And to me, it's just, I don't know, it's just an extra safety step that we do or whatever, called them crazy. You know, it's just important to me, and it's not 100% foolproof. You'll still have things happen. You'll still get a dog that may get sick or, you know, which is unfortunate. Nothing's 100%, but
at least I know it wasn't due to what the dog was walking on, that they got other dogs.
And we can actually, you know, I said we can go to sleep knowing we've done 100% everything possible before that dog goes home with you or whoever else. There was nothing else that you could possibly do to have prevented anything. You know, life happens, things happen, you know, and you're going to get that. But we know that our protocols are really, really strict. We were told by one group shelter that we hold up the pipeline because our standards are so strict. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. Like, this is just what we do. I'm not going to bend our rules.
Accommodate them, yeah.
You know,
accommodate them, yeah.
Right. And like, and I get it. I get their end too, because it's so heartbreaking. Like, it really is. And I wish more people would step up to foster. You know, if we had the money where we had, you know, sometimes we'll do vet boarding and we'll pay to have them at a vet, you know, but it's expensive to keep a dog there for a month, you know, before we can move them. So, you know, I get both sides. You know, I understand that, but we've put these protocols into effect for a reason, and we stick with it. You know, and it's to us, And it's not just helping our own individual dogs. To me, I'm like, it's protecting everybody else that my dogs are around too, because I know that their protocol, like their vetting process was done correctly. So it's, to me, it's like a win-win, but
There you go.
everybody will have a different opinion.
Because of course, to let everybody know, those differences.
So
Along with that, obviously there's a cost involved, and you were telling me that when you provide a service dog to an individual, whether it's someone with PTSD, whether it's all individual autism, that you guys actually waive the adoption fee. Whereas the dogs that don't make the cut, so to speak, as a service dog,
the fee for that,
to adopt that dog would be around, the 4.5, correct?
Yeah, we have a flat adoption fee of $425. So if we like if you came to me and just wanted to adopt a puppy or an adult dog or whatever, it's $425, and that includes all their vetting. You know, we give you 30 days free health insurance, their microchip, their, you know, the spay neuter, you know, everything is done to the age of the dog. And then if, you know, we're donating the dog, then we, you know, obviously waive that fee. So they don't pay any.
Well, I've got good news. I don't know if you saw, but we have officially raised already $575. So we already raised enough for one dog, and we're on our way for the second.
Awesome.
So I think that's, you know, pretty awesome.
That is amazing.
And
thank all of our supporters.
I thank all of our supporters out there. Some of them are watching right now. So it's
just helped another dog. I know, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't think people realize the expense that rescues, you know, go through to acquire all the dogs and the little things, you know, like that just creep up, and you know you have to. And there's some groups that have a lot, I guess, better network of donors and different things that will help offset that. But I mean, it definitely is a labor of love, for sure.
It's certainly a commitment.
You know, and that's just the dog. I mean, and the training, I mean, that can range anywhere from, if you are doing the training yourself with the dog in your home and you're doing, we call it, you know, in-house training, you know, like where the trainer comes and you work and you go and you do all your service work. You're looking anywhere from $5,000 to, you know, $8,000. But if you do a board and train, where it's a pre-trained dog, it can range anywhere from $15,000 to even up to $30,000 for one dog.
Wow.
I mean, it's great. I mean, it is. But when you think about, like, if you have a dog in-house boarding, like for a year, and it's $15,000.
That dog is with that trainer 24/7.
Exactly.
So you just think about someone's salary for 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes sense.
It's really, if you break it down, yes, it's expensive, but it's, you know, if you logged in, like you said, all the hours and the time, and then the vet care on top of it and everything else, it's, you know, it's, I guess, not as much. You know,
just looking at it from that perspective.
You know, it's a shame because so many people could benefit, but I mean, Jonah doesn't even have a service dog. We couldn't afford it. He has his emotional support dog here, Diesel. Diesel does not make the cut for a service dog. He's too reactive of a dog. He would love him to be his service dog, but he fails. When it comes to passing the test, he's just too reactive in the world, where he just would not make a you know, but he's an amazing support dog at home. So he's, you know, he does what he does.
Yeah, they're just as important.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, and for us, Jonah, you know, like he has us when we go out, you know, he's not on his own, you know, we're with him due to his medical, you know, disabilities and his, you know, mental part too. But so having an actual dog out with him, he has us. So like, we're kind of his support dogs. We're out, but in the home, his dogs serve such a great purpose for him. They comfort him. He can't wait to get home to them. You know, I don't know if you ever watch him. He always posts pictures of his dogs. He dresses them up, obviously, in Kentucky gear, or the Patriots gear, whatever sports team Phillies right now, they'll have lots.
Does he give them deflated footballs?
Yeah, right. No, Diesel does that on his own, so he might be the problem.
There you go.
There you go.
So,
when these service dogs are getting trained, and they're with
the trainer 24/7.
The trainer 24/7.
Are those trainers 100%
dedicated to that one dog?
Or are they training multiple dogs?
Or are they training multiple dogs at the same time?
So most of our trainers, if it's an in-house boarding, they're only doing like they have a team of trainers, so they're assigned, just one at a time. Some might do two, depending on the situation, but they're committed to those dogs 100%. They'll have their other private clients that they'll do, because you're not training, 24 hours a day. But that dog goes with them. And they learn from the other dogs, and they know what they're doing as far as, what,
So that brings
up
a very interesting point. So you're actually saying that sometimes when they're training a service dog,
actually
have that dog learn from another service dog that's already been trained?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We actually have one in Texas right now who's actually shadowing. One of our veterans is actually helping. He actually comes out and helps the trainer with his service dog. And so they've teamed them up as a pair, and they actually will go out and do some of their community work, like when they go out to the malls and different things. So which is really cool. It's like we gave to him, and now he's giving back.
That's awesome.
Helping.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's a neat, when you see that's like a neat full circle. So that to us, that's just like, wow, like he found the benefit of what was given to him, and now he wants to kind of return the favor in a small way. So the trainer actually incorporated it into her program for him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess at
this point,
unless anybody else has any more questions, I just like to let everyone know a little bit more what I'm doing for this cause. So my nickname around here is Mopar Mike, and I work for Nielsen Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. I'm a sales professional, and due to how close autism is to me for Autism Awareness Month, I've decided to donate 5% of my total income for April to this organization, to Jonah, the ARC Animal Rescue.
So just wanted to
let everybody else know that
if you want to participate with me, I did set up a fundraiser, which you can access through my website. That's www.moparmiknj.com.
And then also
straight from the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/MoparMikeDim.
I definitely think this is
a great way
to have a more
direct impact
on the lives
of those living with autism.
When I initially started thinking
about doing this,
I was looking at all these different
organizations that are out there. Most of these organizations that focus on autism are more essentially focused
around the awareness aspect. Which obviously is important. But for me, I didn't really know where the money was
going and how it was actually utilized.
Being that I know firsthand
what it's like living with autism
in our
household.
It's very important to me.
That money is going to be directly impacting the life of family living with autism.
So for me,
the awareness aspect wasn't really as important
as the action. So that was
one of my main reasons for picking Jonah's Ark Animal Rescue. And like I said, if you guys would like to
participate,
participate,
I do have
a fundraiser right here through Facebook.
My goal I set,
I would shoot very high. I hope we can reach it. But I set a goal of $5,000.
$575.
We're at 575, and it's only been up and running for a week.
So
I'm thinking that we may actually have a shot here of hitting that number. We'll see how everybody
interacts. And
if
I sell more cars, obviously, I'm
able to do it more. So we'll see how we do.
That's awesome.
So if anybody has any more questions,
if you know somebody that may be able to benefit from having a service dog, an emotional support dog,
or if you're just looking for that next dog
in your family, definitely reach out to Kelly here at Animal Rescue,
and
she'll be able to get you a lot more information about the next step.
So
we can't.
So
is there anything else you'd like to say?
Is there anything else you would like to say?
Well, when you had contacted us about, asking, like whatever we raise will definitely go to someone with autism, we said absolutely. And we actually have a family who we've been working with. They actually have 2 children with autism in their family. And they've been kind of thinking about and talking about, a service dog, and their one son would definitely benefit tremendously. And we had reached out to them and we said, we might be able to make this possible now for you, because financials were a big thing. And I don't think people talk about, he's like that middle school age where bullying for being different is really playing a big toll in their life right now. And he had made some comments that, that life wasn't worth living, and it's heartbreaking because it is.
No.
But I see the difference it makes. And now, because of you, we might be able to help this family. So thank you.
You
have a huge impact here. A lot of people are saying.
For those of you out.
I
thought my dogs would bark, not me crying.
There you go.
It just shows,
where your heart is with all this, which is great.
For those of you that
may not be aware,
on Netflix,
there's actually a show that's been on their network. It's called Atypical.
And
in that show,
it's about a family
with a teenage boy
living
with autism. It's very clear. They don't specifically state in the show. It's very clear that he's actually Asperger's.
He's very high functioning.
He's brilliant.
But he definitely
is living with autism and going through, like you were saying, the bullying in high school and all that.
It's an amazing show.
It's an amazing show. Definitely
recommend it to anybody.
That wants to
get a better idea of
what
a family goes through.
It's a lot.
Just
I know. You can hear
just raising a child with autism. So.
It is. But the good thing is you guys have a great network of support, and hopefully more people will reach out and, connect with other people and not feel like that they're alone.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest having that
support. Because
raising a child with autism
takes a lot more work and dedication than having the typical child.
I always explain it to
people that raising a child with autism is kind of like raising 4 kids.
And then if you have any other kids, you just add that number on top. Basically just, I'm sorry. sorry. I'm trying to gain my thoughts here. But I'm hoping, like you're saying, that family with, two autistic children, children with autism. I know people are sensitive about that sometimes. Having a child with autism. I'm like, well, you know what? It's autism. Knowing that now there's a specific family that we know this is going to be helping. Hopefully that's going to really help us boost our ability to help support for them. So I know obviously now that we're dealing with medical issues and all that, and obviously there's HIPAA and all that type of stuff involved. If they're open and willing to share their story a little bit, we might be able to help share that and share what we're doing with people that they're friends with on Facebook and such, and maybe be able to help a little bit more that way. I know sometimes also families are a little bit more private about these things, so it's completely obviously their choice. But if we're able to amplify this and hopefully make a bigger direct impact, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, and one thing I can say is, like you said, like it's autism. Like if you saw Jonah's medical records, they're so thick, and he has so many diagnoses and so many different things just physically wrong with him, and he wasn't supposed to be here. The doctors are shocked that he's still alive, and then the mental part on top of it. Thankfully, we never had to deal with any behavior issues as far as we didn't have that aspect of it. You just deal with it. Like you said, it is what it is, and we just kind of pulled together as a family and just did what we needed to do for him to make sure he had a quality life. So if I can tell people out there, like, it's okay that your child is different or has something wrong with them, but it's not the end of the world. Obviously when we had children, we thought we'd have, I thought I'd have 4 boys and blah, blah, blah. You plan out your life. Didn't turn out that way. I have 2 amazing boys, and his older brother, Jonah's older brother, he took the brunt end of a lot of stuff too, being, quote, the regular child and dealing with a sick child all the time. And there's so many aspects to it.
I always tell everybody that I feel that God allowing us to think that we have plans. To prove that He has a sense of humor.
So true.
But also, like what you're saying is, not only is it okay, what you're saying, to obviously have a child that's different and living with autism, but obviously there's different levels and there's different degrees of autism. For me and my family, my daughter having Asperger's and high functioning, I almost looked at it as almost like a blessing. It's definitely harder. Like I said, needed the mental attention needed to raise her, like having 4 kids. But watching what she's accomplished and some of the things that she can do that other kids her age, you would never think about them doing. It's a very interesting and unique journey, and I'm excited to see where she's going to go in life, being on this journey.
She's going to do great because she's got you and her mom.
Working very hard. So I guess we'll close here. And like I said, everybody, if you want to know more information about Jonah's Ark Animal Rescues, please reach out to Kelly. They just gone to service dogs. Assistance getting an emotional support dog. Just a dog in general you just want to adopt. They are certainly an amazing organization. Like I said,
And like I said, if you'd like to donate towards our cause, you can take a look at my website, www.mopar.nj.com, and also on Facebook, which is facebook.com/Mopar So between now and April 30th, I will be doing 5% of everything that I make towards this, and I'm hoping that some of you guys will be able to help out as well. So with that, thank you, Kelly, and remember everybody, it's Mopar, no car.